The sun is a merciless god. Mara feels its weight on her cracked lips, a hot press that promises no relief. Her tongue is a dry stone in her mouth. Around her, the last of the sun-scorched clan move like ghosts through a world of baked red earth and bleached bone, their long journey having stripped them of everything but the instinct to place one foot before the other. This is the nature of their nomadism, a constant search for life anew, and that offers only death. Come, sit by the fire of this telling, and warm your hands on the embers of a time before time. The old ones whose memories are maps of greener lands now falter. An elder, Hesh, finally sinks to his knees, his breath a ragged whisper. He will not rise again. There is no ceremony, the clan has no water to spare for tears. They press on a thinning line of ancient humans walking toward their own extinction. Then a flicker, a scout, lean and scorched dark as basalt, stumbles back towards them from over a high ridge. He does not speak. He cannot. He points, his hand trembling, his eyes wide with a terrifying mixture of hope and madness. Hope is a powerful drug. It sends a jolt through the clan, a current that straightens backs and quickens steps. They ascend the ridge, their exhausted bodies screaming in protest, driven by the phantom scent of water. What they see below is not a phantom, an oasis, a massive, turquoise eye staring up at the white-hot sky, fringed with impossible green ferns and thick-trunked cycads. It is a round of life in the dead flesh of the desert. A low murmur of disbelief and joy ripples through the people. They can already taste it, feel the cool water on their burning skin. But their joy dies as quickly as it was born. From the shade of a colossal ginkgo tree, a shape detaches itself from the shadows. It is impossibly large, a walking mountain of muscle and predatory intent. The Giganotosaurus. It is bigger than any carnivore they have ever seen, a nightmare-given form. Its skull alone is the length of a full-grown man. It lowers its head to the water's edge, its jaw agape, revealing rows of serrated teeth like shards of obsidian. This is not just a creature drinking. This is a king in his court. It owns this water, as if to prove the point. A lone iguanodon, desperate with thirst, limps from the rocks on the far side. The tyrant of the oasis moves with a speed that defies its size. The earth shudders. There is a terrible, wet crunch of bone and flesh, a brief high-pitched scream, and then silence. The Giganotosaurus shakes the broken body from its jaws and resumes its watch, its cold reptilian eyes sweeping over its domain, their hope turning to ice in their veins. They are trapped between to death the slow, baking death of the desert behind them, and the swift, violent death guarding the life before them. This is the brutal mathematics of prehistoric life. While the others stare in rot error, the shaman, Kalen, watches with a different intensity. His eyes are not on the monster's teeth, but on the shimmering heat haze beyond, where the vast, empty plains begin. A tool sharpened by a lifetime of impossible survival skills is already moving past the fear, searching for a crack in the fortress of flesh and bone. For 3 suns they remain on the ridge, prisoners of the cliff face. Below, the Giganotosaurus reigns, an embodiment of the Cretaceous period's casual lethality. Thirst becomes a living thing inside them, a creature with claws that scrapes at their throats. Despair settles like dust, coating their spirits. The younger ones watch the water with a terrible, vacant longing. The older ones have seen this before. They know the shape of the end, and they close their eyes, preparing to meet it. But Kalen does not watch the oasis. His gaze is fixed on the vast, shimmering plains to the east. There, a different kind of life exists. A vast herd of Parasaurolophus moves like a slow, dun-colored river across the landscape. Hundreds of them, their magnificent, hollow crests curving back from their skulls. He observes them with an unnatural stillness. He is not a hunter studying prey, he is a scholar of survival studying the force of nature. He sees how a distant rockfall, a minor clatter of stones, sends a shockwave of alarm through the herd. Their heads snap up in unison. A low, resonant hum issues from their crests, a sound that vibrates in Kalen's own chest, a deep, mournful chord that speaks of ancient fear. They are creatures of sound, wired for panic, as mad and brilliant as a lightning strike in a dry season begins to form in his mind. He has seen fire move herds. He has seen the terror of a predator scatter them. But he has never considered wielding their fear, their sheer mass, as a weapon. This is a leap in thinking, a pivotal moment in the undocumented saga of human evolution. KLN gathers the 5 strongest, the 5 whose minds are not yet clouded by the coming darkness. Mara is there, her eyes sharp despite the dehydration. He leads them to a small, protected alcove. He does not speak of hope. He speaks of mechanics. Using a blackened stick, he draws in the dust. A large circle for the oasis. A jagged shape for the great hunter. Then, to the east, a flowing wave of smaller shapes. He points to the wave, then cups his hands to his mouth, mimicking the deep bellow of the Parasaurolophus. He pounds his fists on his chest, a rhythmic, driving beat. Then he sweeps his arm, a gesture of immense force, showing the wave of grazers crashing into the jagged predator. They stare at the drawing, the raw blueprint of a thought that borders on insanity, to orchestrate a stampede of this scale. But KLN is neither. He is a student of the world as it is. He shows them how they will use the landscape itself, the narrow ravines that can funnel the herd, the steep drop-offs that will prevent them from scattering. This is not just a desperate gamble, it is environmental engineering at its most primitive and audacious. They will not simply scare the herd. They will direct it. For the rest of the day, under KLN's guidance, the gnawing thirst. They find fallen, hollow logs. They would hardened by the sun. They stretch the stiff, some cured hides of creatures they scavenged weeks ago, lashing them tight with gut sinew. They are building drums. This is primitive technology born of ultimate need. They gather piles of flat rocks, stacking them precariously on ledges, ready to be pushed. They are building an orchestra of terror, each instrument designed to produce a sound that will shatter the herd's peace and turn their panic into a living avalanche. The clan, the fragile collection of human ancestors on the brink, is preparing to conduct the dinosaurs. The signal is not a shout, but a silence. As the last light of the sun bleeds across the horizon, painting the desert in hues of blood and bruised purple, KLN raises a single, steady hand. On the ridges flanking the unsuspecting Parasaurolophus herd, small figures move with practiced stealth. Mara holds a torch, its pitch-smeared head ready. She takes a deep, ragged breath, the dry air searing her lungs, and plunges it into the carefully nurtured coals of a hidden fire, a sudden star in the deepening dusk. This is the first note in the symphony of fear. From across the shallows alley, another torch blossoms, then another. Below, the river of dinosaurs grows uneasy. A low, questioning hum ripples through the herd as hundreds of heads lift, their crests catching the flickering light. Then comes the second movement. The drums begin. A single, deep thump from KLN's position. A sound that feels less heard and more felt, a heartbeat for the dying land. It is answered by another. Then a third, the rhythm building, a discordant, predatory pulse that speaks of nothing natural. It is the sound of pure, calculated menace, an integral part of this chapter in hominid history. The herd's anxious humming pitches higher, turning into a chorus of resonant bleats. They begin to shift, a mass of muscle and bone coiling in on itself like a frightened serpent. Now the crescendo. With a great collective heave, the teams on the high ledges push their stacks of rock. The clattering avalanche of stone is the final trigger. Panic, absolute and mindless, takes hold. The herd breaks. It is not a scatter. KLN's chosen terrain denies them that. The ravines and cliffs funnel the terror into a single direction west toward the oasis. The ground begins to tremble, a low, persistent roar that builds into a cataclysm. It is the sound of a prehistoric world in motion, a living avalanche of flesh, a wave of life driven by the fear of death. Below at the oasis, the Giganotosaurus raises its massive head from a carcass. It senses the vibration, tastes the dust in the air. It lets out a roar of supreme territorial rage, a challenge to whatever dares disturb its reign. It is the roar of a king who cannot comprehend that his castle is about to be washed away in a flood. The first of the stampeding Parasaurolophus burst from the mouth of the ravine. The Giganotosaurus charges to meet them, a tyrant ready to assert its power. Its jaws snap, crushing the skull of the lead animal in a spray of bone and brain matter. But the second, third, and 20th are right behind. There is no dinosaur fight, no epic battle. There is only physics. The unstoppable force of 1,000 tons of panicked momentum meets the immovable object, and the object moves. The predator is swamped, buried, broken under a tide of pounding feet and heavy bodies. Its roars are cut short, replaced by the sickening, percussive crunch of its own immense skeleton, a horrifying display of osteodontocratic failure. The living avalanche thunders on, churning the edges of the oasis into a muddy ruin before its energy finally dissipates across the plains beyond, leaving a profound, ringing silence in its wake. On the ridge, the clan stares down, their bodies trembling not from fear, but from the sheer, terrible power they have unleashed. The water is theirs. The descent to the oasis is a slow, weary pilgrimage. There is no celebration, only the quiet, desperate motions of survival. They fall to their knees at the water's edge, ignoring the mud and the churned-up debris, and drink. The water is life, a sacrament taken in a ruined temple. This moment by a fouled pool under a canopy of alien stars is a turning point. It is the quiet birth of the most dangerous idea in the history of the world that the weak, if clever enough, can redirect the power of the strong. They did not conquer the Giganotosaurus with a Thor claw, but with a thought, an observation translated into a plan. This is the dawn of tactical thinking, the first faint glimmer of the mind that would one day map the stars and split the atom. It is the brutal, necessary lesson of a prehistoric world where humanity was not the apex, but the afterthought. That night no one sleeps by a fire. They huddle together, listening to the new silence of the oasis, a silence they purchased with fire and thunder. And in that quiet, a question hangs unspoken by learning to wield the fears of monsters, what kind of monster they are becoming. This is the paradox of our ascent, the shadow that has followed human ancestors from the first tool to the final frontier. The greatest teeth are not made of bone, but of courage, and the sharpest claws are forged in the mind. But the scent of blood on the desert wind travels far, and attracts more than just scavengers.